Welcome back to the Growing with Money, Sean See, man, I can't even give my own introduction. Welcome back to the Growing Money with Sean Trace, that would be me, podcast. One more of our Halloween kind of episodes because we're coming up on Halloween, and I've got a really cool guest with me. Would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm Jenna-Rose Finnie, and I'm a finance coach.
What is that? What does that mean? What do you do?
I walk people through achieving their financial goals through organic habits, building a way of life and not a custom one-size-fits-all kind of plan. Like everybody's getting their own tailor-made plan and hand-holding through building habits along the way.
I love that because I was trying to just a couple minutes ago. It's early in the morning for me, and I will say that I don't do my best early. I'm better early mornings than I am late nights, though, lately. I don't know. I'm getting old. I just feel like I hit late night, I'm just, boom, done. But late night, I was up till 2 last night studying grad school. But this morning, I was dragging a little bit, and I went to put my shoes on, and I'm really weird. I buy 3 pairs of the same shoe just because if I have something I like, you know what? And then I'll stage them.
I've done that. The second it tears or something, you need a replacement.
You go to the next pair and because I live overseas, I don't have easy access to size 46 or US size 12 shoes. They don't sell them here. So I went to put on my right shoe, and then suddenly I went and grabbed another shoe, and it was another right shoe. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wear 2 right shoes. How did I get 2 right shoes? And I'm just looking around all amazed. And what cracked me up was when you just said that example, it's not one size fits all. I've had shoes that I would try to wear that didn't fit my feet. And I would try to I would read the reviews online. I would look online, and everyone's like, you know what, this is the best shoe. And I wore it, and it hurt like hell. And then I went and tried something that people were like, this shoe is uncomfortable, doesn't fit my feet. And then I put it on, and I was like, this is literally made for me. This is the one. This is the right shoe. And things are not one size fit all especially with finance. It is very unique. You have your own job, you have your own how much you make, and you have your own spending habits. So I love to hear about things being personalized because it's so important.
It's critical. Absolutely.
Now, we are going to have some fun. First question, what scares you, before we get into our topic, what is the thing that scares you more than anything in the world?
There's a realm of equally scary things. Being eaten alive, the ocean.
Okay. Right?
And then I guess lifelong torture.
Those are pretty horrible.
Those are all pretty horrible.
The ocean, we were flying to, anytime that I fly from Asia to the US, I sit there and I try not to think about, first of all, I try not to think that the fact that I'm in a metal tube, several thousand feet above the planet, and there's just this giant gap of space between me and the ocean. And I also try not to think of the fact that even if there was one video I saw where this lady's like, I'm swimming in the deep ocean, and she just popped under and you could hear whale sounds. It's like, how amazing is this? And then all of a sudden my brain went to the fact that there's 2,000 feet of crushing pressure and water between her and the bottom. And I'm just like, oh no, no. And it's funny because the ocean is one of the scary things out there because of the unknown. Things that you cannot see, and I believe Freud or Carl Jung would talk about the subconscious, all of those things that are deeply hidden under there. Because, did you ever get scared of going in the swimming pool when you were a kid?
Yeah. Mostly the deep end, not necessarily the pool at large. It was the deep end specifically.
The deep end, because you didn't know what was down there, or the edge of the bed. You're laying there as a child, you got a foot hanging off the edge. No.
So something's going to grab it.
something is going to grab. There's a foot hanging off the edge of the bed. I had this technique where I would learn how to tuck my blanket up under my body. I would roll, get it tucked under my feet. It was skill. It was just this rolling back and forth because I was creating this cocoon of safety as a child. Did you ever have any experiences like that as a kid?
Yeah, well, my grandfather actually built me this little, these little stairs that went up to my bed so that I didn't have to have space. It was pretty magical. Great grandpa.
Grandpa for the win. Because under the bed was scary time. And one of the things that there was this poll that I had read recently. It was on the internet, so I don't know how accurate it was, but it was like listing things that scared people. And one of the top was clowns. And which reminds me of a great movie, It. Have you ever seen It before?
I have. I've seen the original, like the series version and the part 1 and 2 that more recently came out.
Which one did you like the best?
I love them both for different reasons. You know, the original, you have some extra 80s cheesy factors going on. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's a really slow burn because it's stretched out over like 8 parts. And then the new one is just so polished up. I think Bill Skarsgård makes an amazing Pennywise. Not that oh my gosh, it was
it Tim Roth? No, what's I know you're talking about the original something Curry.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, Tim Curry. Oh man, he did a great job. But Bill Skarsgård, I found personally a lot scarier.
So
like
creepy.
I do not want to encounter that ever.
I'm scared of Bill Skarsgård out of the makeup now after watching that, not gonna lie. And one of the things that's interesting about It and Pennywise is like, Pennywise is kind of the ultimate monster. Like, if you realize and you watch enough of the show, none of these forms are his true form. He just feeds on fear. And what's interesting, because how are we tying this into money? One of the funny things that you look at the different money personalities, and one of the ones that I had for a long time, and I think a lot of people have when they're going through financial challenges, it's great to be money vigilant. It's great to be, there's money vigilant, money avoidance, money worship, and money status. But, some of those, it's more often that you're doing it when you have money. But when you don't have money or you're dealing with challenges, there's a lot of this money avoidance. And what's interesting is the fear of debt or financial stress, when left unchecked, it grows stronger. And if you ignore it, it becomes this monster, just like Pennywise.
Yeah, it does. And I actually have a personal experience with that. With when I was in my early 20s, I had collected a bunch of credit card debt as a young girl in their 20s does. And I was struggling to make the payments. So I just didn't. And then the debt got defaulted. And I was, I started getting letters in the mail. I was like, you know what? That's a tomorrow problem. We're just going to put it aside. And then my wages started getting garnished. So that really, letting that sit there really leveled up and grew over time. And then it became like a big problem to deal with.
And that's it becomes this monster. And I think that when we don't look at things, it begins to fester. It begins to, you think about zombie movies or something. There's someone who gets a cut or scratch and they don't look at it. And then 2 seconds later in the movie, there's always this scene where they remove the bandage and everyone's like, oh no. And he's like, oh yes, it is bad. It's always like that, and there's always the person who pulls up, oh no, you're dying now. And like the thing is like when we don't face those fears, they get worse. They become like monsters, And one of the things that like with It, the Pennywise character, it changes depending upon your fear. And and J.K. Rowling goes into this in Harry Potter. She's got the one monster, which is the it takes I can't remember the name right now, but it takes whatever form is your fear. So if you're afraid of spiders, it's going to become a spider. If you're afraid of mice, it's going to become a giant mouse. And the thing is like all of us have our different insecurities. Maybe there was a point in time where you had this bad experience, whatever it might have been. Paycheck came 2 days too late. And then you start getting those fears going through. Now, one of the things that's really good about this is if you start uncovering these things and again, coming back to Pennywise, the thing that is, and the monster in the Harry Potter series, the most important thing is to have courage and you start not being afraid. Because courage to uncover these things makes the monster start to disappear. And it's like you shine a light on something, you take the bandage off and suddenly it just doesn't look so scary anymore. Now, Pennywise feeds off insecurities and comparisons, just like financial stress grows when we focus on other spending habits, when we look at other things. What do you think about a personalized spending plan or something to get people like focused on their problems?
I think everybody needs a personalized spending plan and
right.
to talk through building up the habits around living your best life. I remember being with certain groups of people and just feeling obligated to put my card down when I was like at a restaurant with them, like out for drinks or whatever, especially with work colleagues. Like I did retail management and I just felt like a certain sense of responsibility to like always pay for everything.
Yeah. And there's a fear of not doing it.
Oh, there's a fear. It's a people pleasing thing too. Like I feared some kind of rejection or pushback or whatever. I just wanted people to be happy. But when I take a step back and think about how I view others doing the same thing or even reacting differently, I typically respect the person that says, you know what, let's all get our own checks, or, just somebody who initiates their true belief instead of just trying to please everybody. So I really, worked on that.
Well, it's interesting because I remember when I I had this one experience where I wanted to see a friend, an old friend. We hadn't seen each other in a long time. And I'm not the big into the nightclub dancing, and I don't drink much. That's just not my thing. And we went to this person was like, and I was riding with them. I was visiting another country and they were like, we're going to go to the club. I'm like, I don't really go to clubs. I kind of go to bed early. I'm boring like that. I mean, I do a lot of other fun things. Take me to the spa, take me out to do extreme sports. I'm okay with that, but just not a clubbing person. And then we went to the club and this person's like, we are shutting this club down tonight. We are going till 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. And I was just like, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, wow. And there was this challenge. And oftentimes we get these people that don't necessarily respect these boundaries. And it can be, I was just scared to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to shut the club down. And finally around 2 a.m., I was like, I love you to pieces. I'm done. I was done 3 hours ago. And yet the damage was already done. I lost that sleep. I was tired and it threw off the next 3 days. And, and if that's a financial situation where your friend is like, well, what, we are ordering top shelf, stuff tonight. And then suddenly you are on your budget and you look at your credit card the next day and you're like, what $500 charge is this,
Yeah, I've definitely been there with the spending, and even not even just with groups of people, but just looking at the credit card or my bank statement at the end of the month, and I spent $60 on coffee. Like, I don't know, just ridiculous stuff that adds up, like you don't realize.
Right. It is. And then, we start to get these fears coming along that, man, it creates anxiety. But if you have a plan, you can budget for fun expenses. You can create a plan so that there is this, all right, well, you know what? I'm not going to freak out right now because I've got my emergency fund, or not that would be an emergency, or I've got my budget for fun. And, it's coming from that and it's safe. Now, what strengths or unique financial approaches do you have that you help people create personalized spending plans? Like you said, you don't do one size fit all. How can people create something customized that works for them?
Well, first of all, I try to strip the word budget from my vocabulary because
Thank
people tend
God.
to feel restricted and
It's like diet.
punished. It's like a diet, and people just see doors close on them the second that they feel budget. So I'm like, no, we're not doing that. My approach is I typically just start with a needs analysis. What do you need?
Yeah.
It's coming in. We covering that? Okay, great. Now let's move into the discretionary spending. What are the things you like to do all the time? Let's rank those in order. Do you have cash left over? Great. If not, let's work on getting a surplus. If yes, let's start divvying up the surplus towards the different things. Like, of course, yes, you need the emergency fund. You need to focus on retirement. But what are the things that really bring you joy?
Yeah.
For me personally, I love live music. So I made just like a little slush fund adjacent to my checking that equals 3 times that I normally spend going to a concert. So I always have that door open to go, and as I spend it down, I build it back up, and it's just kind of a habit around that. So anybody who is maybe an impulse spender, I would suggest that kind of framework for them. For someone who's, more into having the security blanket, then, more is going to go into the emergency fund and just be tucked away in a high yield or something like that. So that's kind of the process I would work through.
Well, it is individualistic. Like, like last night, my wife and daughter and I, we went to it was a condensed version of all of the songs from Les Mis. And my wife loves live music. It was really special. Like it was an 80-minute performance of like kind of some of the better songs. Not better, they're all amazing, but some of the more famous songs. And it wasn't necessarily cheap, but it was something that was of extreme value. Like it was like my daughter's face was glowing, and it was a really special thing. And but we planned for that. We set the money aside, and we had something set aside so that when that came, we were like, because sometimes things come and you can't necessarily do it. And and again, like looking through the fear idea is like sometimes the monster can be the budget itself. Like sometimes the scary thing can be, well, what if I'm following this and I make a mistake? What if I'm doing this and I fail? It's like, I remember as a kid, there was this obstacle course at the camp that I went to. And there was this one section where there was this rope walk. I mean, everyone was in a harness, but you had to walk along this rope holding another rope. And that one thing, when you got up and I stepped off of this piece of wood and I looked down and it was over water, and I was just like, again, there was the water. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And what I remembered was I was not able to get across it. I had to keep backing up and going down. And it was all fear that kept me from walking across this thing that was actually on the other side was fun. On the other side was play. On the other side was the good stuff. But I was terrified. And what helped me was a really good camp counselor, a really good coach. And so he stood below and he said, Sean, I'm right here. And what he did, it was awesome, was like he stood straight to my right side. And he's like, Sean, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a step and you take a step. And that's all you got to do. You take a step and I take a step. And so he took a step and I took a step with him. And he's like, are you feeling okay? I'm like, I haven't died yet. And he's like, all right, that's a good first step. And then he's like, let's take another step. He took a step. I took a step. And, and I'm just like, he's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm still alive. And he was like, all right, well, we're doing pretty good then. So he's like,
I love that you set the bar low.
Huh? Right?
I love that you
yeah,
set the bar
exactly.
low.
Like, super low. Are you having fun? It was none of that. It was like, are you doing okay? And I'm like, I'm still here. But then one of the fun things happened was he took a step, I took 2, because suddenly I knew I could do this. Suddenly it became less scary. Suddenly I took the last 3 steps, so I got this far. Obviously I can take another. And then suddenly I, kind of got a little hop skip in my step. And it was like this thing that was just this terrifying monster became something that was not so terrifying. And I mean, just like, whether that or like a haunted house, budgets can seem terrifying for people. Now, have you ever created a budget that felt too restrictive or like it was draining the fun out of your life?
My first draft of a budget ever, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I was working for this investment management firm. I worked there for almost 7 years. That's what I did before I was coaching. And they were all really competitive with how frugal they were. Everybody that worked there, it was like, I drive this garbage car that the heat doesn't work in it, but I don't, it's super cheap, so I'm winning. Or like, I bought part almost expired peanut butter so that it was 80 cents less or whatever, like just this real penny pinching culture. So being around that, where was I going with that? I'm so sorry.
No, it was a budget that was too restrictive, too terrifying.
So I was trying to keep up with them. So I was like, okay, so I'm really going to like comb everything out, take all the fun out, strip everything. We are saving every dollar, which, for that stretch, I did save a lot of money. So for that, I'm thankful. But I felt burnt out. I wasn't having fun. So then I kind of splurged and did some impulsive things. So that taught me pretty quickly, I have to factor in fun. Otherwise, I'm just going to feel punished and be miserable.
Yeah. My wife has had this long journey with her people coaching her on diets because she's a celebrity, and there is a challenging thing for her where people expect her to look a certain way. And she is beautiful the way she is, but she's dealt with some people who were like, I can help you. I've got the diet for you. And so my wife had this one diet that I was like, no, we are stopping this. And it was like, she drank a shake for 2 meals a day. And then 1 meal of the day was an egg. And then 1 meal of the day was just like a salad. And after a month, she's like, I think that I'm starting to get some results, but I feel miserable. And I was like, I told you that. I told you that. There is this idea. And yet, so what we did is I found someone that was an old colleague of mine from graduate school who I knew was a nutritionist. And they created a fun diet. It was something that was like, yes, it was, cutting back. It was limiting those calories. But it was also something that was like, made her feel balanced. And it was like, one of the things too, like that one diet that she was on wasn't giving her the vitamins and nutrients she needed. It wasn't actually healthy. It was so restrictive that it wasn't healthy. So like, driving somewhere in New England without heat is actually not, in the wintertime, is not a good idea. That is not healthy for you. You will get frostbite. This is bad.
Extreme.
It's extreme. And I mean, not hating on it, because maybe there's a time and place. But what do you do to help people find balance?
I mean, I do a lot of different things, but I tend to lean on, I actually got this advice from a nutritionist to do a 70-30 split. 70% of the time you're eating good, 30% of the time have cheeseburgers, do whatever you want. And then I started to build that habit where most of the time I was eating good stuff, right? And then, part of the time bad. So bringing that approach into financial management and just splitting up, have fun with your money, but most of it do responsible stuff.
I love that. It's like, go wild with this, There you go. You got some.
Start out a little bit.
Yeah. Some stupid impulse buys, but they're budgeted for. And you got them, and you understand that is what it is. My daughter, we were doing, when I was teaching her, and this is what sparked the idea with Teddy to do the zombie apocalypse and need wants, is I've been trying to instill in her financial concepts, and I love ChatGPT as a resource to help me come up with fun activities. Yeah, it's amazing. So we did this one activity where it was, I kind of outlined it and created a nice little doc which now that ChatGPT can create docs for you is wonderful. And I use them all the time with my daughter. So it listed out, all right, list 10 things you that can fit in your backpack. Zombie apocalypse, and you got 10 things that are going to go in your backpack. And, and so what she did was she listed out some of the things, and she was like putting in things that she wanted, things she needs, and then she forgot clothes. And I was like, well, you might need clothes. But we got to the bottom of the list, and the last two things, so she did an 80-20 split. And the last, number 9 was her Nintendo Switch, because she loves it, and she loves playing Minecraft. That's her little thing. And then the other thing was, which is a great game, actually. The other thing was hope. And I was like, so interesting. It was a concept that she wanted to put in there. But it was like, whatever types of things provide her hope and happiness. Because you have to have those in life. You have to have those things that bring you joy. What brings you joy?
Brings me joy? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, live music. I go to probably on average at least a concert a month.
That's awesome.
And I love scary movies. And that's kind of a cheap thing because I can just do that at home.
Yeah.
So getting outside, I think it's really important just to harmonize with nature at least a little bit every day. I make an effort to see the sunrise every day.
Yeah. Really? That's awesome. That is awesome, actually. Oh, so, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, it brings me joy. First of all, time and experiences with family. That's such an important thing for me. Whatever it might be, whether it be riding go-karts, whether it be watching movies, but big thing for me is movie night. I love having movie night with my wife and daughter, and I kind of created a nice little home. It's nothing fancy, but created with some ambiance, a home like theater that, got the mood lights. It feels like we're going to a little home cinema. And it's something that's special for me, right? Now, it's interesting because you have to adjust through life to find your way. I remember watching when I was a kid, there was this this big maze at the gardens for this one house near where we lived. And it was like this big castle house. I think it might have been the Biltmore House, and in Asheville. And there was this maze that was there. And maybe I'm confusing things, but hopefully there was a maze there. But I remember walking through it. It might have been some other place. I was a kid, But there was a maze, and it would always, and the teachers gave us the mazes as a kid. Finding your way through is always tricky. And one of the things I love about haunted houses is they're essentially a maze as well. You go through and you have these things that make you fear. Now, how can you adjust your course? How can people adjust their course? Well, maybe, you're going through a maze and you turn left when you should have gone right. How can people sit there and not beat themselves up for those mistakes? Because, especially if there's something scary, you get a jump scare, you're going to beat yourself up for a bit. How can people adjust for staying on course even when they make a mistake?
I think it's really important to realize that failure is a mere step on the path of success.
Oh, I love that.
Right? You got to think about making mistakes. It's going to happen. Any path you're on, you're going to have mistakes, and you just got to learn from them, get back up, and keep trying. And I'm going to use the stock market as an example. If you look at the stock market, any chart of the stock market over a 10-year period, you're going to see all these peaks and valleys, right? And you have these huge dips when the market crashes, but you pan out and there's continuous growth.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for any path of success.
Right? I love the little image of the path to success. And it's always, you see this on Instagram, what people think success is, what success really looks like. And it's a squiggly line.
Yeah.
It's so true though, and it's I think that when I have a bad purchase or a bad investment, and I mean, not even on the stock market, my mom right now is frozen. I love you, Mom. I don't know if she watches this podcast. She watches some of my reels, but she always gets stuck with purchases. And she's so scared of making the wrong decision. And I know why. She had a lot of trauma earlier in her life. And she made a decision early in her life that didn't go well. And so now she gets locked into choices. And like right now, she needs a new car. And her car she bought, and she's realizing now, years later, she bought a Volvo because it was at that time, it was listed as one of the most environmentally friendly cars. It had a HEPA filter in that at times when other cars did not. One of the things she didn't realize, though, is that, resale value, they don't keep their value. And European cars, when they get older, get extremely expensive to repair. And so, when she was buying a car, I was like, Mom, get a Toyota. It will run forever. Or get a Honda. Those things will literally go forever. And she now she's looking there going, she's like, and she's stuck in this moment of indecision. She's like, well, I've got this car. It's been so well maintained. It's only worth now $2,000 after she spent almost 20 grand on it in the beginning, but she's had it a long, long time. But it's a Honda or Toyota of the same year would probably have much more of its value. And she's beating herself up. Now, the problem is she regrets the past decision. And she's afraid to move into the next decision because she's like, well, maybe I'll make another bad choice. And it's created this thing with this. And again, it comes back to it and Pennywise. It's this fear. Reality, whatever car she chooses is going to be better than the current situation, because the current situation, she's just going to be dumping money into repairing the old car that's an expensive fix. And that the fear is actually worse than staying in the situation she's in.
I mean,
it's tough, right?
It's tough. But I mean, does she regret the time that she had with the car? With
No.
The Volvo?
No.
Okay. So it was a positive experience.
100%.
And it's just time to graduate to the next level.
Right? Well, and that's what I was telling her. It's these it's small steps, big wins. I sit there and think about, I had this one lump sum of money that I came into in the past. And it was a large amount. It was close to $100,000. Cool. But I didn't invest it right. I didn't know what I was doing with it. And I was in graduate school and I used it to live. And it went like this because living in Los Angeles was expensive. I was in graduate school. I actually dropped out of school because it was such an expensive money drain. And now I've been finishing it in a different way, pay as you go. And I've been able to get some scholarships. But what was interesting is I regret my decisions. However, I don't regret the experiences. And so, you know what? Maybe I have to sit there and go, I had these amazing experiences. And you can't let the past equal the future. Just because I made mistakes in the past doesn't mean that the next choice that I make is not going to be a win. One of the things that I want to come back to was my camp counselor taking the step. All right, we're going to take a step. And what I realized at that moment was it was like small steps equal big wins. And you see this in movies like Pennywise as it, right? The group, they're starting to lose people as they go, so certainly there are setbacks. People are getting eaten, they're getting taken out, but the core group continues to take steps forward to beating this monster. And there are setbacks, there are challenges, there are things that happen, but overall these small victories that they have start to add up and create momentum. And once you start getting that momentum, there's a wow, I am way behind where I should be financially, and I've just been working on setting up a what do you call it, my safety net, my savings.
Wait, though. What tells you that you're behind financially? Are you comparing yourself to others?
I am comparing myself to others. And, and I am holding a significant amount of student loan debt. I have credit cards that I haven't paid down, and I don't have a safety net. I don't have my emergency savings. But I'm giving myself a ton of credit. Part of me creating this podcast and part of what I'm doing is trying to talk to people about me righting my ship, so to say. And I just had a win. I had my emergency fund set up, and then this month I got hit. I had a recurring charge go through that's once a year. That's for my business. It's a music thing. And I love the company Artlist, but there's one thing that they do that's really shady. They don't send any email before it renews. So every year, same thing happens. Suddenly I look up and there's $199 gone from my account. And the company did not give me a courtesy email would be really great. I'm not going to cancel. I've been a member for many years. But it would be really nice. And so suddenly that was gone. And then suddenly there was another recurring charge that I didn't remember. That's a once a year thing that goes through in October. And suddenly it was about $400 just gone from my account. And I was like, I had budgeted to have that money there. But luckily my emergency savings was able to take that dip. And I was just like, win. That's why we have it. And
congratulations.
Thank you, right? There was a little sadness to see that money go, but I was like, I reminded myself, no. That's why I have it. That's why it's there. And then now, just this month from this next paycheck, I will, tighten my belt a little bit and put a little bit extra back in. But it was small steps equal big wins. And I know that there's this awareness, just like when I was halfway across the bridge, there's an awareness that, hey, I can do this. Talk to me about people that you've seen who've started to have small steps, but they start getting big wins and they start gaining confidence.
Yeah. I've had this with a few clients they just don't have that big surplus in their income. They're living really close check to check. That's something I see all the time. So we come up with what's your nothing number? What feels like nothing to spend money on? Is it $5, $10, something really small? We can start with that. Just start automating that into a high yield savings, something that's away, you're not looking at it. And let's just not look at it for a while and see if it grows. And then you're talking about the money, you start to see it accumulate and you see the client get kind of high on that. Oh, and then correlating what is that? What are those dollars? What does that mean to you? What are some things that you could do with that? Is that, as it grows past maybe 1,000, is that a car repair? Is it an emergency room visit? Is it pineapple pizza? Is it, whatever you want, start correlating it to intention, and small steps become big wins.
Right. One of the things too that I was thinking about I love video games. I don't play much anymore, but when I was younger, I would play. I
still play them. I love it.
Really? What's your go-to game?
Dark Souls, the first one. I mean, I love all the Dark Souls games, but the first one is my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things with my daughter, we play Minecraft together, and it is in there, but I'm going to throw back a little bit. I used to love Diablo and World of Warcraft. One of the things,
Diablo, so good.
But one of the things I loved doing in the game was gathering the gold, gathering the resources, gathering the things.
Yeah.
The loot, you get all of it. You would gather this stuff, and you could then buy stuff, and it's like in life, I was like, oof, I don't, I've got these things I have to do, got to pay a bill. But then when I started gamifying it and started going, hey, this is my stash of gold, and I started renaming my savings account to Sean's Galleons 1, renaming things to kind of be more fun and gamify it. And it was cracking me up, but it worked. It worked because it helped me think about when I think about things and it's just so black and white, it's not easy, but we have a whole new generation that's growing up on gaming, and why not, Yeah, I was like, I wish that more of the personal finance apps as well would be like, give you XP points when you saved a certain
Yes.
amount, right? I was like, if someone could do this, if someone out there is listening, make a personal finance app that is gamified to all levels, so that when you put something in here, 25 XP points, ding, ding, give me alerts, give me fun sounds, give me graphics. Because if we can gamify this, even in our own lives, it makes it so much easier. But like one of the things that you get in games that you don't necessarily get in real life is that games always celebrate those little wins. Like whatever win that you get, that game is going to validate you and keep you playing it. And it's going to be like, because otherwise, if it's just like the monotony, well, why am I playing this game? My life is already monotonous,
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to like level up and get points, like you said, maybe like additional earnings after you reach a certain point.
Right?
Stuff like that would be, yeah, maybe it's up to us. Maybe we should make this.
100%. See, right? Any app developers out there, get in contact. We got some fun things to do. Now, let me ask you this. What small financial habits have you been putting off because they seem too minor? Or what might your clients be doing that you see often?
I think a lot of clients put off retirement because it feels so far away. I'm working with a lot of millennials and Gen Z, that audience, and maybe they have some debt, and that's the focus right now. Sure, but like, why not put a little bit into retirement? It might feel small, feel really far away, but a little bit goes a long way.
I'm an ex-ennial. And so I was born right on the cusp. I'm 79. So I am actually Gen X, but it's like at that, but whenever I read millennial stuff, I identify with so much of what they grew up with because it was the same thing for me. I just had a couple random 80s things because of being born in 79. But one of the fun things, or one of the horrible things that I recently saw was I say horrible just because it made me feel old. There was this article online, and it's like Gen X coming up on retirement and unprepared, and I was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, whoa, hang on here, we're just hitting our stride, man. But that was the mindset. Like I was like, I've got time, but you don't always have time, and you'll still keep thinking you have time, and then when suddenly it's there, it's like something's there,
Yeah, and by not getting your skin in the game as early as possible, you're leaving money on the table because there's going to be growth. Even if it's a small amount, just put something, whatever you can.
Right. I still think so many people do not understand the concept of compounding interest. Like it will turn into a beast. And and I'm doing what I can to fix my finances. But one of the reasons that this is so important for me, and so hey, for anybody who's listening that's older, and you're like, well, you know what? You can still make debt. You can still do stuff to better prepare yourself. But one of the things that's so important for me is why I'm trying to learn about this, is that these are things that I want to instill in my daughter. So that when she starts putting money into her 401k as soon as she's able to. She starts investing in ways that she's able to as early as she can. And, and we're trying to teach her as she makes money. She's got a YouTube channel. We haven't monetized it yet, but last year we got up to 10,000 followers. It's mine and hers. I make educational content with her, and that's kind of like one of the things we do. But I tell her that's her job. And as we make these videos, we will give her an allowance for working, anytime she makes a video, she gets it. And we're trying to teach her to save, to invest, to do different things. But, because we're trying to teach her that it's never too soon to be saving for the future. Now, you get someone who comes to you who has different financial goals, but things seem insurmountable. How can breaking things down into small steps make people feel more in control?
I think it's just taking away the stress of the whole big picture and just, let's just focus on this little bite here. And then you get a few bites, and then now it's accumulated to a big bite. Like, this is fantastic. You put put an extra $25 towards a debt payment. Well, that's going towards the principal at least. So it's going to go down faster. And then it's like, okay, that one gets knocked out and then you're moving on to the next one and you get debt free pretty quick. And then you can really aggressively go into the savings and it snowballs.
Yeah. Love the snowball. It's so true.
Love the snowball.
Right? A debt snowball is so great because it just boom, boom, boom. And then suddenly you got that momentum. And that's what it's all about. Like, you think about it number one versus it two. It number one was interesting for me because it was kids and kids' fears. You know, kids' fears are very much like what we were talking about earlier, like the thing under the bed, the stuff you can't see. But what I liked about it number two was that it was adults facing this monster. You know, because we think that we grow up and like, you know, I'm not as scared of the dark as I used to be. I used to be very scared of the dark. But now I'm scared of not having enough money to pay my bills. I'm scared of these monsters that become bigger. I'm scared of not having my finances in a place and it puts my family in a bad situation. I'm scared of having another major global catastrophe like we did and not being in a place that we have finances to handle that. Like, these are the things that the fears don't go away. They just evolve. And like, I like it that these kids, you know, kind of had to stand up courageous, but in it too, adults had to figure out how to kill this monster. And it was like one of the things is two things that they had to do that I think are so instrumental. And if I can pull things out from this, first thing was you have to face your fear. You know, and like he's standing there, there's this one character and he's got the spear and he's like, with this spear, I can kill monsters. With this spear, I can kill monsters. And it was that belief that you can make a difference. And I think that's one of the dangers with financial problems is people get into this place of apathy. It's so bad. I am so in such a bad situation. I've got, you know, this much in student loan debt or credit card debt or whatever it might be, that you don't feel like you can make a dent. But you can. And it takes courage to get there. It takes courage to try.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, people are often entering freeze response around their finances. Like, I see people all the time, they're just terrified to log into their bank account. They just don't want to see what's going on. And having that conversation, like, you know, it's probably not as bad as you think. Like, let's just do it together. And I'll walk you through if there really is a big problem. And then you start to chip away at, okay, like what are we paying for? What's coming in? What's going out? And we can make this happen. You know, do we have to shift things around? Do we maybe need to reach out to different providers or, you know, whoever you're paying bills to and maybe ask questions? Is there ways to bring stuff down? And that was probably like some of the best advice I ever received was just ask questions, question stuff,
right?
Question everything. I called Verizon, like my bill was $107 a month, and it just seemed a little high. I don't know. So I just called them one day and said, "Am I using everything that I'm paying for?"
Yeah.
Well, no. Okay.
Right.
Well, make it so I'm just using stuff, paying for stuff I use. Yeah, I brought my bill down to $70 a month. It's like just asking the questions.
Ramit Sethi talks about that in his book, I Can Teach You to Be Rich, where he's like, call this company and ask this question. And I did it. I went and I called, I think it was my credit card company, and I asked about this change. They told me it wasn't quite the answer that he said that you would get, but it was a better solution. I got a better term. It was just like, you can talk to these people. You can do this. And it's like one of the things, too, that I think that is the overcoming the fear. We feel like we don't have power. We feel that we are stuck. And sometimes it is like uncovering the bandage. Maybe there is a problem. Maybe you're not making enough money. Maybe you literally aren't making enough. Well, then if we can see that, we can find you a new job. We can find a situation or find a side hustle or do something to get the situation better. Maybe you're spending too much. Well, you got to be able to see that. And the fear is going to get in your way of that.
Absolutely. I actually want to bring up one of my favorite scary movies that I think is really underrated. I just have it right here. It's Cube.
Oh, it's terrifying.
You love so good. And in this movie, people are trapped in, they're like test subjects, right? And they're in this cube, and you can enter into different rooms within the cube, and each one tortures you in a different way. Well, as they progress, though, they start figuring out there's triggers. You go through this trial and error process, and at some point they start taking like a shoe and throwing it into a room, and like just seeing, does that trigger something? And I would say like that might just be looking at the bank account. That might just be throwing $10 extra into a savings, just those like really small steps, just see what happens. You're not going to make it worse by making an effort.
Right. It's so true. And this is the next thing. Like, and I think again, courage, and the second thing are the power of baby steps. Now, when we break things into small manageable pieces, you don't realize, like, if I'm looking, if I was like, and I watch it too, and I'm like, that monster's not real. Come on. But what if there was a monster? What if like one of the reasons I like Jurassic Park or something, what if there was a velociraptor in front of my house? That's scary, but or a Komodo dragon, or I go somewhere and there's an escaped lion. How can I deal with that? Well, step one, what's step two? What's step three? Whenever we get things, you can do stuff to defend yourself. There are steps that you can take hopefully I never have to fight a lion. Thank God that we don't have to do.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I'm just going to say I don't want to ever fight a lion, but there will be other challenges I face in my life. And whatever they might be, if you can start breaking things into manageable steps, you can climb mountains. You can accomplish great things. We look at the most amazing things done in history. And right now, like last week, they landed, SpaceX caught a booster like in this frame. It was just this insane. It like these little things, and they like these little chopsticks looking things on the side of the, you stick, you ever put toothpicks into an avocado seed, and then you put it in water and you suspend it.
I've seen that. I know what you're talking about.
That's what it looked like. It was like a rocket suspended by these toothpick looking things. And I was like, oh my goodness. We didn't get there. Humankind didn't get to this point by just saying, Stone Age, let's make rocket. No.
No, it's been a gradual progression over centuries.
100%. And you can accomplish great things if you can break it into manageable goals,
Absolutely. I mean, that was my own experience getting myself out of 30 grand in debt. I used the debt snowball method. I spent time calling the people that were defaulting on me and just negotiated with them, asked those questions. Some of those I was able to chop in half just by offering money same day, just asking the questions. So then you get rid of that, start snowball method into the savings, start opening doors for yourself, factoring in the fun. And now I feel pretty financially free. I'm almost like partially retired with this business because I have so much just flexibility and with my time management and all that this is just such a place of freedom for me, and I couldn't have done it if I didn't go aggressive with the savings and got myself out of debt and all those things. And I want to help people do the same.
So how can people look you up, and how can people contact you if they're interested in some of the services you offer?
Sure. And anybody can go to fincoach.com. I'm so sorry, fincoach.biz. And there's a booking link right on there. I don't charge for my consultation, so literally anybody can go on there and book a 30-minute consultation with me. And I love to hear from you. I love to talk about money.
That's awesome. And it's so beautiful that, people like you are out there, and you were introduced to me through Teddy, who's so awesome as well. But one of the things that I love about what you guys are doing is you're helping people tackle looking at financial strategies, and helping people realize that they can slay monsters in their own life, whatever monster they might be dealing with, just like the kids in it. It might be scary, but once you face the fear, you take away the monster's power. You have the ability to slay these financial demons in your life, but you got to do it one step at a time. And that one step might be simply making the phone call, booking the appointment, and sitting down and going, you know what, today I'm taking back control. I love in not a horror movie, but the Sword in the Stone. There's this sword in the rock, and that sword has been there your whole life. And all you've got to do is step forward and say, now is the moment where I am reclaiming my power. And you can pull it out of the rock, and you can slay monsters left and right.
Absolutely.
I don't know what type of, is it a netherite sword? Is it a special XP plus sword? I don't know, but it's a sword there, and you can go and get it.
Absolutely. I also just want to throw out there, yeah, it is scary, but like, let's not discriminate clowns. I love clowns.
Right. Clowns are beautiful. Yeah, right. You know, and one of the best movies about clowns ever is Robin Williams' Patch Adams. Oh my goodness, such a beautiful movie. Robin Williams is a clown that goes to Children's Hospital to help cheer up kids. I think he's a doctor who works there, if I remember correctly. But he dresses up like as a clown, right?
Yeah, so love Robin Williams.
Right, everything that Robin Williams did. Though looking back, no, I won't go down that path. Mrs. Doubtfire, that was a heck of a movie.
Doubtfire,
right? That movie.
I can't get through that movie without crying. The courtroom scene. I mean, that's a tearjerker. You can't.
Right. Everything Robin Williams is amazing. But that's a podcast for another day.